Most people lose power before they even realize a game has started. They speak too soon, react too fast, and reveal themselves without being asked. Machiavelli warned about this centuries ago, and 2026 will punish those who ignore it. If you move the same way as everyone else, you will be controlled by those who don't. What you are about to hear is not loud, not emotional, and not comforting. It sharpens your silence, slows your reactions, and narrows your exposure. By the end, your presence will feel heavier and your intentions harder to detect. Most people believe intelligence is proven through speech, quick answers, clever arguments, visible confidence. That belief alone makes them exposed. The moment someone feels the need to demonstrate intelligence, they surrender leverage. Machiavelli understood that power does not announce itself, it observes. Silence is not emptiness, it is pressure. When you do not rush to speak, others instinctively fill the gap. They explain themselves, justify their actions, reveal motivations, and expose priorities without realizing they are doing your work for you. In any social or professional environment, conversation is a transaction. Most people overpay. They speak to be liked, to be validated, to be seen as competent. This creates patterns, and patterns create predictability. Predictable people are easy to steer. The disciplined individual resists this impulse. They speak less, but every word carries weight because it is rare. When you are selective with language, people listen more closely, searching for meaning instead of dismissing noise. Silence also disrupts hierarchy. The unaware assume the most dominant person is the loudest. In reality, groups unconsciously orient themselves around the calmest presence, the one who reacts last, not first. When you pause before responding, you reclaim control over the frame. Others begin adjusting their tone, clarifying their statements, or retreating from aggressive positions. They are no longer certain where they stand with you, and uncertainty weakens their confidence. Information is the most valuable asset in any power dynamic, and silence is how it is collected. When you talk less, you listen more. When you listen more, you notice inconsistencies, emotional spikes, defensive language, and hidden agendas. Most people reveal their strategy accidentally through repetition and emotional leakage. The quiet observer sees these signals clearly because they are not distracted by performing. Silence also protects you from premature commitment. Words bind you to positions before you have full visibility. Once spoken, they can be used against you, quoted, reinterpreted, or weaponized. The strategic individual waits until outcomes are clearer and options narrower. They allow others to reveal their cards first. This is not passivity, it is controlled restraint. Silence is not avoidance, it is positioning. Those who master it appear composed under pressure, unreadable under scrutiny, and dominant without effort. Most people never learn this because silence feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is exactly why it works. Most people confuse trust with disclosure. They believe closeness is built by revealing everything, plans, fears, ambitions, and internal conflicts. This assumption quietly destroys leverage. Machiavelli understood that familiarity weakens position faster than open opposition. The moment someone believes they fully understand you, they stop respecting your depth. Predictability replaces caution, and caution is the shield that protects influence. Information is never neutral. Once shared, it no longer belongs to you. Even when intentions are clean, circumstances change. Emotions shift, alliances dissolve, and private details gain new meaning in the wrong context. Most people share because it feels relieving, not because it is strategic. Relief is temporary, exposure is permanent. The disciplined individual treats personal information like currency, spent deliberately, never emotionally. Partial revelation is the mark of control. You allow others to feel included without granting access. This creates comfort without surrender. When people believe they are trusted, they lower their guard. When they believe they fully know you, they stop observing carefully. The strategic individual offers enough clarity to appear open while preserving an internal space that remains unreachable. This balance keeps relationships functional while protecting authority. Oversharing often disguises insecurity. People speak excessively when they fear being misunderstood, disliked, or excluded. They attempt to control perception by explaining themselves in advance. This habit backfires. The more you explain, the more room others have to reinterpret your words. Machiavelli recognized that ambiguity preserves power. When intentions are not fully visible, they cannot be easily countered. Trust does not require transparency. It requires consistency. The unaware believe loyalty is proven through confession. The aware prove reliability through behavior over time. Silence in certain areas forces others to evaluate you based on outcomes, not narratives. This shifts power in your favor because outcomes are harder to manipulate than stories. There is also a strategic advantage in letting others project onto you. When information is incomplete, people fill the gaps with their own assumptions. These assumptions reveal more about them than about you. The disciplined observer listens carefully, adjusting strategy based on what others believe, not what they know. This creates a quiet informational advantage that compounds over time. Power is lost when access is unrestricted. Even allies should not see every layer. Boundaries are not barriers, they are filters. They ensure that influence flows in your direction without dilution. Machiavelli warned that those who make themselves completely known invite manipulation. Those who remain partially concealed remain difficult to predict and therefore difficult to control. This approach does not eliminate trust, it refines it. You decide what is shared, when it is shared, and with whom. That decision-making alone elevates your position. Most people reveal themselves impulsively and spend years repairing the consequences. The strategic individual reveals selectively and never needs to explain why they remained silent. Emotional transparency feels honest, but in power dynamics it functions as exposure. Most people believe that showing emotion builds connection and proves authenticity. In reality, uncontrolled emotional visibility hands others a map of your internal state. Once that map exists, pressure becomes precise. Machiavelli understood that power does not require cruelty or deception, it requires asymmetry. The person who knows less about you than you know about them holds the advantage. Reactions are the most revealing form of information. A raised voice, a tightened jaw, an immediate defense, each signal tells observers where your limits are. The unaware leak these signals constantly, especially under stress. They believe they are being real. What they are actually doing is training others on how to influence them. Calm dominance interrupts this process. When reactions become unreliable, manipulation loses accuracy. Control does not mean emotional absence. It means emotional choice. The disciplined individual feels fully but expresses selectively. They understand that not every feeling deserves visibility. This is not suppression, it is filtration. Emotion that is released without purpose weakens position. Emotion that is deployed intentionally strengthens it. Machiavelli's insight was simple expression should serve strategy, not relief. Most people react quickly because speed feels powerful. Immediate response creates the illusion of strength. In reality, it signals reactivity, and reactivity signals vulnerability. Those who pause reclaim authority over the interaction. A delayed response forces others to sit with uncertainty. They begin questioning their approach, softening their tone, or over-explaining to regain balance. This subtle shift transfers control without confrontation. Emotional restraint also alters how others treat you long-term. When people cannot predict how you will react, they approach more carefully. They measure their words. They test boundaries slowly. This cautious behavior creates respect without demand. Loud dominance attracts resistance. Quiet composure attracts compliance. The unaware chase attention through emotional display. The aware cultivate gravity through stillness. There is also a defensive dimension. Emotional transparency makes you easy to provoke. Once someone knows what frustrates, excites, or wounds you, they can trigger responses at will. Strategic restraint denies them this access. When provocations fail to produce visible reaction, the provocateur loses momentum. Their behavior escalates or collapses, revealing intention. Either outcome benefits the composed observer. Modern environments reward emotional exhibition, but power operates on a different frequency. Displays may generate short-term validation, but they erode long-term influence. Leaders who broadcast every emotion become predictable. Predictability invites challenge. Those who maintain emotional opacity remain difficult to read, and therefore difficult to undermine. This discipline requires internal stability. You cannot fake emotional control without eventually breaking. The foundation is self-awareness, recognizing what you feel without being ruled by it. When emotion arises, you observe it before deciding whether expression serves the situation. This moment of internal pause is where power is either lost or preserved. People often mistake this approach for coldness. That misunderstanding is useful. It filters out those who seek access through emotional exploitation. The few who remain learn that engagement with you requires intention and respect. Over time, your presence alone recalibrates group behavior. Emotional control is not about winning every interaction. It is about never giving others unnecessary leverage. When your inner state is no longer visible on demand, influence shifts naturally in your direction. Most people will never develop this discipline because emotional restraint feels uncomfortable and counterintuitive. That discomfort is the price of authority. Most people believe defending themselves is necessary to preserve dignity. When accused, questioned, or challenged, they rush to explain, justify, and clarify. This reflex feels natural, even righteous. In reality, it is one of the fastest ways to lose control in a power dynamic. Machiavelli understood that the need to defend signals insecurity, not innocence. The moment you step into explanation, you accept the other person's frame and grant them authority over the interaction. Accusations gain strength through engagement. When you respond emotionally or immediately, you validate the attack by treating it as worthy of reaction. The unaware believes silence implies guilt, but power does not operate on public assumptions. It operates on leverage. Silence forces the accuser to carry the weight of their own claim. Without resistance, their position weakens. They begin to repeat themselves, escalate tone, or introduce inconsistencies, exposing intent rather than truth. Most attacks are not about facts, they are about control. The objective is to provoke a reaction that can be used as evidence of instability, defensiveness, or submission. The disciplined individual recognizes this and refuses to participate on those terms. By withholding reaction, they disrupt the attacker's rhythm. Tension remains unresolved, and unresolved tension shifts psychological pressure back onto the initiator. Delayed response is a weapon. Time strips accusations of emotional momentum. What feels urgent in the moment often appears trivial after pause. When you do respond, if you respond at all, the tone is measured, minimal, and detached. This contrast amplifies authority. Others begin to question the legitimacy of the accusation, not because you argued against it, but because you did not seem threatened by it. Explanation is especially dangerous because it multiplies exposure. Every added detail creates new points of attack. Each justification invites counter-argument. Machiavelli warned that those who speak too much hand their enemies material. The unaware try to control perception through volume and clarity. The aware understand that perception is shaped by composure, not verbosity. There is also a social dimension. In group settings, defensive behavior lowers status. It places you beneath the accuser, even if the accusation is weak. Silence or minimal acknowledgement repositions you as the evaluator, not the evaluated. Observers subconsciously track who appears calm and who appears agitated. Calmness signals dominance because it suggests options. Agitation signals dependence on outcome. This does not mean you never address accusations. It means you choose when addressing them serves you. Sometimes correction is necessary, but it should occur on your timeline, not theirs. When you initiate the clarification later, in a controlled setting, the power dynamic reverses. You are no longer reacting, you are concluding. Provocation thrives on immediacy. Many attacks are designed to extract a response in the moment before reflection can occur. The disciplined individual resists this pressure. They understand that not every challenge deserves acknowledgement. Ignoring certain provocations deprives them of oxygen. The attacker is left uncertain whether they misjudged the situation or overestimated their leverage. Silence also communicates confidence in outcome. When someone does not rush to defend themselves, it implies they trust their position, their reputation, or their long-term leverage. This quiet confidence unsettles those who rely on intimidation or social pressure. They expect fear or compliance. When neither appears, their strategy collapses. There is a difference between silence and avoidance. Avoidance comes from fear of exposure. Strategic silence comes from control of timing. The former weakens credibility over time, the latter strengthens it. The disciplined individual monitors context, audience, and consequence before choosing engagement. Most people never learn this distinction because emotional impulse overrides strategic thought. They react to restore comfort, not to preserve position. Machiavelli's insight was that comfort is often the enemy of power. Short-term relief costs long-term advantage. By refusing to defend impulsively, you force others to reveal their true motive. Those seeking truth will soften. Those seeking dominance will escalate. Both outcomes give you information, and information, not explanation, is what wins these encounters. The strongest position is not being proven right. It is being unshaken. Visibility is often mistaken for influence. In modern environments, being seen feels like progress, and being heard feels like authority. Machiavelli understood the danger in this assumption. Attention attracts interest, but it also attracts interference. The more visible your movement, the easier it becomes to anticipate, disrupt, or neutralize it. Power operates best when observation is limited and intentions are unclear. Most people expose their trajectory long before they arrive anywhere meaningful. They announce plans, broadcast ambitions, and document progress in real time. This creates a false sense of momentum while quietly inviting resistance. When others know where you are headed, they can position themselves accordingly, sometimes as competitors, sometimes as obstacles, sometimes as quiet beneficiaries of your effort. The disciplined individual denies this advantage by keeping progress private until outcomes are secured. Low visibility preserves optionality. When no one is tracking your movement, you retain freedom to adjust without scrutiny. You can change direction without explanation, abandon paths without embarrassment, and accelerate without opposition. Public intention limits flexibility. Private intention protects it. Machiavelli advised appearing ordinary not because ordinariness is powerful, but because it is disarming. People monitor threats, not shadows. There is also a psychological effect on others. When someone is constantly visible, they become familiar. Familiarity breeds evaluation, comparison, and eventual dismissal. When someone remains mostly unseen, curiosity replaces judgment. Absence amplifies perceived value. The human mind assigns greater weight to what it cannot easily access. Strategic obscurity allows others to speculate rather than scrutinize. Visibility also invites entitlement. The more people feel included in your process, the more they believe they deserve influence over it. Opinions multiply. Advice becomes pressure. Expectations form. This external noise distorts judgment and slows decision-making. The disciplined individual avoids this by limiting access. They do not confuse transparency with collaboration. They understand that not everyone observing deserves a voice. Power requires insulation. Every significant move creates friction somewhere. When actions are hidden, friction is delayed. By the time opposition becomes aware, momentum already exists. Machiavelli warned against revealing strength too early. Early strength provokes coalition. Quiet strength matures without interference. When it finally becomes visible, resistance is already too late. There is a difference between being respected and being watched. Respect grows from results, not exposure. Many seek recognition prematurely and sacrifice leverage in exchange for validation. Validation is fleeting. Leverage compounds. The disciplined individual tolerates being underestimated because underestimation creates space. Those who are not seen as threats are allowed to move freely. Strategic obscurity also protects against sabotage. When intentions are unclear, sabotage becomes inefficient. Opponents do not know where to apply pressure. They waste energy guessing. Meanwhile, progress continues uninterrupted. The unaware believes secrecy signals weakness or fear. In reality, secrecy signals confidence in timing. Low visibility strengthens internal focus as well. When progress is private, motivation becomes intrinsic rather than performative. You move to achieve, not to be seen achieving. This removes emotional dependency on approval and stabilizes discipline. Machiavelli understood that external applause weakens internal resolve. Those who need to be seen often slow down when attention fades. This approach does not require isolation. It requires selectivity. Allies may know fragments, never the whole. Even supporters do not need full access. Information should flow on a need-to-know basis. This prevents leakage, distortion, and premature reaction. The fewer people who know, the fewer variables exist. Power is often lost through exposure, not defeat. Many capable individuals fail because they reveal themselves too early and attract forces they are not ready to confront. The disciplined individual advances quietly, strengthening position while remaining unremarkable. By the time visibility becomes unavoidable, their foundation is already secure. Obscurity is nobsence. It is controlled presence. You exist without inviting attention. You act without broadcasting intention. You allow results to speak when speaking benefits you. Most people will never adopt this discipline because invisibility feels like stagnation. In reality, it is preparation. Those who master low visibility are rarely rushed, rarely challenged directly, and rarely undermined effectively. They move beneath noise, beyond interference, and ahead of reaction. When they finally appear fully, it feels sudden to others, but it was never sudden at all. Correction is one of the most misunderstood expressions of power. Most people assume that identifying errors publicly establishes authority, intelligence, or superiority. In reality, public correction often exposes insecurity and impatience. Machiavelli understood that dominance is not proven through constant assertion. It is preserved through restraint. When you correct someone openly without necessity, you convert a minor error into a permanent adversary. Every correction carries a social cost. When delivered publicly, it threatens status, not just accuracy. Human beings instinctively resist status loss, even when they are wrong. The moment you expose someone in front of others, you trigger defense mechanisms, denial, resentment, quiet retaliation. The unaware believe they have won the moment. What they have actually done is trade short-term validation for long-term resistance. Power operates on memory. People forget facts, but they remember humiliation. A person you correct publicly may comply outwardly, but internally they will look for opportunities to regain balance. Machiavelli warned that creating unnecessary enemies weakens position more than ignoring small mistakes. Influence is preserved by minimizing friction, not maximizing correctness. Silence in the face of minor errors is often strategic, not passive. Not every mistake threatens outcome. The disciplined individual evaluates whether correction serves the objective or merely the ego. When accuracy does not affect leverage, restraint is the superior move. Letting someone remain unaware of a mistake can keep them cooperative, confident, and predictable. Correcting them may only sharpen their awareness and reduce your advantage. Public correction also elevates the corrected person to equal footing, even temporarily. It signals that their behavior required engagement. This shifts attention toward them and away from you. In power dynamics, attention is a resource. Those who command it without demanding it retain authority. Those who chase it through correction dilute their position. Machiavelli understood the value of letting others believe they are right. This belief creates comfort. Comfort reduces vigilance. A comfortable person is easier to guide than a humiliated one. When someone feels respected, even incorrectly, they are more receptive to influence. When they feel exposed, they become guarded. There are moments when correction is necessary, but timing defines its impact. Correcting privately preserves dignity while achieving accuracy. Correcting later reframes the interaction. Correcting indirectly avoids confrontation altogether. The disciplined individual chooses the method that maintains control, not the one that satisfies impulse. Public correction should be reserved for dominance signaling, not education. When the objective is to establish hierarchy unmistakably, correction may be appropriate. Even then, it must be measured and final. Overuse erodes authority. Dominance that must be repeatedly demonstrated is not dominance at all. Most people correct because they fear losing relevance. They speak to remind others of their competence. This behavior reveals dependence on recognition. Machiavelli recognized that true power does not require constant proof. It is assumed through consistency, not enforced through exposure. Correction also creates narrative. When you correct someone publicly, you define the interaction as conflict. Observers begin tracking sides, motives, and outcomes. This invites politics. Politics drain focus and introduce variables you do not control. Strategic restraint avoids unnecessary narrative formation. Letting others retain their illusion of correctness can be advantageous. Illusions shape behavior. A person who believes they are right will act confidently in predictable ways. This predictability is exploitable. A corrected person becomes cautious, adaptive, and harder to read. Machiavelli favored exploiting certainty over confronting it. There is also an asymmetry in perceived intent. When you correct publicly, your motive is scrutinized. Are you helping or asserting? Even well-intentioned correction can be interpreted as dominance play. This ambiguity weakens trust. Silence, on the other hand, is rarely misinterpreted as aggression. In leadership contexts, excessive correction undermines loyalty. Teams function on psychological safety. Public exposure erodes that safety. People become risk-averse, withholding ideas to avoid embarrassment. Innovation declines. Influence becomes brittle. The disciplined leader corrects in ways that preserve dignity while steering outcomes. Correction should serve structure, not ego. When it aligns with system integrity or ethical boundary, it carries legitimacy. When it serves personal validation, it invites backlash. Machiavelli's insight was that power is not about being right, it is about being effective. Most people never learn this distinction. They correct impulsively and wonder why resistance follows. They win arguments and lose allies. The disciplined individual understands that restraint compounds influence. By choosing when not to correct, they preserve harmony, maintain leverage, and keep attention where it belongs. The strongest form of correction is often absence. When others realize their mistake without being exposed, they adjust without resentment. They save face and remain aligned. This outcome requires patience and confidence, traits most lack. Timing is the silent force that determines whether power is amplified or neutralized. Most people focus on intention, effort, or morality, believing that acting with good reason or strong emotion justifies immediate movement. Machiavelli understood that action detached from timing is often self-sabotage. The same move executed too early invites resistance, executed too late, it loses relevance. Power is not about movement, it is about moment. The unaware act when emotion peaks. Anger accelerates action. Excitement overrides caution. Fear triggers premature defense. These impulses feel urgent, convincing the individual that delay equals weakness. In reality, urgency is often engineered by circumstances or opponents who benefit from your haste. The disciplined individual recognizes this pressure and resists it. They allow emotional intensity to settle before committing to action. When clarity replaces urgency, leverage increases. Acting too early exposes intent. Once intent is visible, others begin preparing countermeasures. They adjust behavior, form alliances, or quietly block progress. Machiavelli warned that premature revelation transforms opportunity into conflict. By waiting, you allow conditions to mature organically. Resistance weakens not because you confront it, but because it dissipates on its own. There is also danger in moral impulsiveness. Many act quickly to appear principled or decisive, mistaking visibility for virtue. This creates vulnerability. When action is driven by the need to be seen as right, it becomes predictable. Predictability invites manipulation. The disciplined individual separates internal values from external timing. They remain ethical internally while remaining patient externally. Acting too late carries a different cost. Hesitation can be mistaken for indecision. Opportunities decay. Momentum shifts. The key distinction is between patience and paralysis. Patience observes conditions, paralysis avoids responsibility. Machiavelli understood that restraint must be paired with readiness. When the moment arrives, action should be decisive and final, not tentative. Timing also governs escalation. Most conflicts do not require immediate response. Many resolve themselves through neglect. Others reveal deeper motives over time. The disciplined individual lets situations breathe. They observe who escalates, who retreats, and who adapts. This information determines whether action is necessary at all. Acting prematurely deprives you of this insight. The perception of inevitability is one of the strongest tools of power. When you act at the correct moment, resistance feels futile to observers. It appears as though events unfolded naturally rather than being forced. Machiavelli favored moves that looked unavoidable. This effect cannot be manufactured through aggression, it emerges through timing. Waiting also shifts responsibility. When you allow others to act first, they reveal commitment. They take risk. They define their position. Your response then appears measured rather than provocative. This asymmetry protects you from blame while preserving initiative. The disciplined individual understands that being second is often stronger than being first. Most people rush because stillness feels uncomfortable. Silence and inaction are misinterpreted as weakness in a culture addicted to immediacy. Machiavelli saw through this illusion. Stillness is not absence of control, it is concentration of it. Those who can wait without anxiety possess internal authority. Timing is also relational. Acting before trust is established breeds suspicion. Acting after trust is secured multiplies impact. Influence requires groundwork. The disciplined individual invests in context before execution. When action finally occurs, it is supported rather than resisted. There is a strategic cruelty in patience. While you wait, others exhaust themselves. They overcommit, overact, and expose vulnerabilities. The unaware burn energy, proving relevance. The aware conserve energy for the decisive moment. When action finally comes, it feels overwhelming not because of force, but because of contrast. Powerful individuals do not chase moments, they create them. By refusing to move on someone else's schedule, they define tempo. Tempo control is dominance. Those who dictate pace control outcomes. Machiavelli understood that speed is only useful when chosen, not when imposed. Most failures of power are failures of timing disguised as moral or strategic mistakes. People say the wrong thing at the wrong moment, act before leverage exists, or hesitate after momentum is lost. These errors are not intellectual, they are emotional. Mastery of timing requires discipline, emotional regulation, and trust in long-term advantage. It demands the ability to endure uncertainty without flinching. Very few develop this capacity because waiting feels like risk. In reality, waiting is often the safest position. When you act at the correct moment, explanation becomes unnecessary. Outcomes justify themselves. Opposition collapses quietly. Observers adjust without protest. Action feels clean, precise, and irreversible. Those who understand timing rarely need to fight. They let conditions do the work. Most people will hear this and continue living the same way. Very few will adjust their behavior and become difficult to read, difficult to pressure, and impossible to outmaneuver. If this sharpened your awareness, like the video and subscribe, not for motivation but for precision. Power does not announce itself. It waits, and then it decides.